Most cancer treatment centers will tell you all about how they fight cancer. At Carson Tahoe, we believe in telling you a different kind of story. One focused on not only how we fight, but why. To give support, to provide expertise and resources, to bring peace of mind, to create hope, and to be a true partner in your health. Quite simply, Carson Tahoe delivers the highest standard of complete cancer care in one convenient location. With nationally acclaimed cancer programs, state-of-the-art treatment, and a specialized team dedicated to healing mind, body, and soul. Together, we're taking on cancer, one patient at a time. Carson Tahoe Cancer Center, an affiliate of Huntsman Cancer Institute at the University of Utah. Here's to your health.
Hello everybody, Richard Brago Manjatuto. We are proud to be a sponsor of tonight's candidate debates, and I know that most of you have an opinion as to how this is going and how everything is proceeding locally and nationally. So that's why it's very important that we listen to these candidates, we form an opinion, and we go out and vote. In these challenging times, it is extremely important that we get to know these candidates and that we make informed decisions and we vote into office those candidates that best reflect how we feel. Regardless of which direction you go, regardless of who your candidate is, please get out and vote. Please listen to these debates, learn these candidates, know who's out there, know who's doing what for you. Have a great day. Everybody be safe.
Communities across the country are facing unprecedented challenges due to the coronavirus. Millions of Americans are losing jobs as businesses struggle to generate revenue. The majority still working are doing so from home. As history has shown with previous crises, we will pull through this together. Our career centers are here to help you prepare now for the eventual economic turnaround. With a large portion of our community expected to be home for the next several months, we are extending access to the Skill Up program to our unemployed residents and local employers. Skill Up offers the opportunity to update your existing job skills, learn new skills, and even pursue an industry-recognized certification as you prepare to head back to work. The program provides access to over 5,000 courses, training for over 100 certifications, and is accessible from anywhere with internet access 24/7. If you're interested, please visit this site for more information.
Welcome back to NGBN Carson City TV's broadcast of Carson City's virtual candidate debates. Remember that if you missed any of the debate tonight, it's going to be available on all of our platforms. Well, let's continue on with our mediator, Brent Boynton.
Thank you, Cassandra. We're now ready to hear from our candidates for Carson City Mayor. Going into this evening, we had a full slate of 5 candidates scheduled. However, we learned this evening that Jim Shirk had a family emergency and could not participate. We will interview him at a later time, and his answers to these questions will be available online. So we're going to start with opening remarks. Once again, our candidates drew cards for our order of appearance, and we're starting with Aaron Sims.
Thank you so very much for moderating this debate. I also want to thank the NGBN and Nevada Appeal, as well as Cassandra, for hosting. My name is Aaron Sims, and I'm running to be the next mayor of Carson City. I'm running because I believe that Carson City is at a crossroads. We are looking at a lot of different new opportunities coming across our community over the next 4 to 8 to 12 years. I'm running because I believe that we need to focus or shift our focus towards those who are working class, those who are average, those who are working within our community to make our community what it is. I'm running because I believe Carson City is the most amazing city in the state of Nevada. But I also believe that we have a lot of things that we could be focused on that we maybe have not been so focused on over the past couple of terms. I believe that Carson City, looking into the future, has a lot of different opportunities to grow and expand our businesses, to expand in our infrastructure, to expand in education, and to expand when it comes to focusing on our open spaces. All of these are strong tenets of mine in my campaign.
is Todd B. Jennings.
Are we good? Alrighty. Thank you so much for the opportunity today. So a priest, a rabbit, and a minister go into a bar. The rabbit looks around and says, I think I'm a typo. Soon after I announced my candidacy, someone asked me in a slightly indignant way what qualified me to be the mayor of Carson City. I then asked about Dan Clammer, our mayor in the late 60s. He owned the Chevy dealership. What about Eugene Scribner? He was a chiropractor. Ray Masako worked for Sierra Pacific Power, Mark McFair worked for IBM, and our current mayor, Bob Kroll, is a lawyer. We haven't held that against him. All kidding aside, they all had one thing in common, something I share with them, a desire for Carson City to be the kind of a place where families could and can raise their children in relative safety. After all, Dr. Scribner raised 3 daughters, Mayor Marv raised 3 sons, and I do believe Mayor Kroll raised 4 children here. My son's mom and I raised a 21-year-old who's become a fine young man making his way in the world. Carson City was and continues to be a great community. Is there room for improvement? Always. As we said in the Air Force, when you're finished improving, you are truly finished. I proudly served 21 years and change in uniform, and now I look forward to serving the people of Carson City. It was 23 years ago this summer that I came home because, after all, Bertha Raffetto said it best when she penned those words we all learned in the Carson City schools. Props to you, Mrs. Bianchi, because truly home means Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next mayoral candidate is Lori Bagwell.
Good evening, and I want to thank you for creating an opportunity for the public to learn about all of the candidates tonight. And I really want to thank the public the most for engaging in this process and being willing to learn about each of us. I've lived in Carson City since 1966. I began work at the age of 14. And for those of you that remember way back then, I worked at Swenson's Ice Cream Parlor, and I learned my work ethic from a man named Rodney Vieira. He taught me every aspect of that business, and I've carried it on throughout my life. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration. I worked for the state for 26 years with an increasing level of responsibility. I was tasked by several times different governors to solve budgetary situations that occurred in the state, hence the nickname I have of the budget guru. I worked for the state budget office. I've managed a $330 million state budget, 3 times the size of Carson City. I've negotiated and managed hundreds of contracts, those that were simple to those that are complex. I've successfully wrote and passed legislation, both for the Association of Counties and later as a state employee. Upon retiring from state service, my husband and I owned a small sandwich shop in town. We were able to keep this open even through the 2008 economic downturn. I know the pressure of having to make a payroll. I have 5.5 years as your supervisor, and I've been working with other board members to solve critical issues for this city. Not all the issues satisfy everyone, but we must find solutions that benefit the majority of the community. I've attended every ribbon cutting possible that occurred in the past 5.5 years, as I believe that people that want to invest their money in Carson City, they deserve a hoorah from the city government. I've worked hard over the years to support nonprofits, and I will keep doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we hear from Nathaniel D. Kilgore.
I've been living in Carson City for about 30 years, with the exception of a few summers that I was raised in Arizona with my grandparents. And for the past 12 years, I've been the owner-operator of the Caterpillar Hookah Lounge right here in downtown. As you cast your vote, I implore that you ask yourself if you really want to see changes, because I know I do. Do you want to see the same status quo in Carson City? I would like to see good changes and leadership and a new direction. So I hope that everyone out there wants to see the same. Some of our candidates have already ruled against the best interest of the people, and it would be foolish to think that they won't do that again. So let's keep our ears open and do some research before we just cast a vote for somebody along party lines or whatever other bias people might have. I decided to run for mayor because of my early interest in politics, and I really want to create lasting change in a real positive motion, and definitely bolster the youth's influence a younger generation to not only vote, but also to take up roles in political office and forms of service. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now ask the mayoral candidates the same series of questions that the other candidates have answered this evening. We're going to start with the one on road funding. We know that road maintenance is a serious problem here in Carson City. We rely on gasoline taxes for them. And we also know that that funding is coming up short. In the fiscal year 2020, there was about $3 million to spend on road repairs. It was estimated that there was about $15 million in need. So, starting with Aaron Sims, how would you raise additional revenue for our roads, either at the local, state, or national level, and how do you propose implementing that plan?
Thank you, Brent. Historically, federal, state, and local governments have relied on fuel taxes to both generate revenue and deter unnecessary travel that causes wear and tear on our roads. However, electric vehicles, fuel efficiency, and fluctuating gas prices have made this model completely obsolete. New solutions are definitely necessary. While alternative fuel taxes are a short-term Band-Aid solution, these are ballot questions for voters of Carson City to decide to continue. The federal government has granted $95 million to state governments to research effective models for vehicle mileage tax, which is the only solution that upholds the two principles of generating revenue and minimizing costs. While this model has not fully been explored or implemented, I am optimistic that the science-backed trial research Nevada is currently conducting will make headway with this proposal. Nevada is the first state that is gathering odometer data on a full statewide scale via Assembly Bill 401. The information will allow us to more rapidly research and implement this program that most states are already transitioning to, while avoiding some of the pitfalls that these states are seeing with implementation. I look forward to working alongside our state legislature to provide the data that will help us transition out of our current outdated tax model. I also want to mention that I do support the Board of Supervisors' decision to temporarily supplement funds with alternative fuel taxes. I do support the right of our constituents to vote on whether or not to extend the measure. And I do support the research that the state has been conducting to find a solution for an outdated tax model to repair our roads. This is an important issue if we want to continue to attract businesses in our community. Thank you, Brent.
Thank you. Todd Jennings, how would you bring in more road revenue?
Much for the opportunity, Brent. So road repair funds could be supplemented, I believe, with the marijuana sales tax. What's that money going toward right now? Rather than wherever they're putting it, because right now we don't really know where some of that's going. The diesel fuel tax could also aid in that shortfall. I'd also be pursuing state or federal grant opportunities that might be available for road maintenance purposes. One of the things we're looking at is with this pandemic, once we come out of this, everything's going to be different. There's going to be less money for road repairs, but it's going to happen. My nephew lives in Colorado. One of my nephews lives in Colorado, and he talked about they implemented a tax in Colorado Springs that sunset. And people, yes, they were upset about the taxes. But once they started seeing their roads repaired, then they realized that, okay, and then once the taxes sunset, then they were good to go. They felt, okay, that was my tax dollars at work. I saw results from it. So that would be something, while nobody ever is in favor of raising taxes, if they see the results of those taxes and recognize that those taxes will go away once those goals are met, then I think that would be something that would make it a little bit easier for the public to swallow by raising those taxes. So budget cuts would be necessary, after addressing a shortfall in road maintenance funds. And one of the things I think that would really be important is getting the managers of the different departments within the city, all department managers, to work together within their teams to find out where we could maybe draw some funds to do some work on our roads. There's no question that our roads need work. One of my goals for the first year would be to identify the worst road, get a team together, identify the very worst road, and get that fixed. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Lori Bagwell, new money for old streets and roads.
That was a good question, Brett. It's a question that we all have. Carson City has about 670 lane miles to maintain, and we have an annual budget of $1 million for rebuilding and $3 million for repairs. So it simply is not enough money to maintain our roads. Several years ago, I worked with all the department staff, and we scoured our budgets looking for ways to take general fund and put it to the roads. We found about $300,000 to help in that project. Mayor Kroll and I went to Washington, D.C. on our own dime, not the taxpayers, to lobby the federal government to support our Southern Corridor project. We were successful and received a $7.6 million grant, and then the state provided $6.2 million. We would never have had the local funds available to reconstruct this road. We would have had to save every penny of our budget for 13 years. One of the other benefits that we looked in the South Carson project is we reduced our lane miles by 4. So that's another way, is you start reducing lane miles so you can reduce the maintenance needs so we can get to some of the other roads. I think the city's also started working smarter. We now combine all of our road projects with infrastructure projects so that you don't cut a road twice. To me, that was just simply a waste. So we're able to do our water and sewer projects at the same time. Several years ago, we had a public gas tax increase vote, and the people said no. So I don't know if it's just the word tax that scared them off, or whether they thought we were doing a good enough job on the roads. It's really simple, though. We can raise revenue to help meet the needs, decrease our costs and other governmental expenditures, or reduce the lane miles that we maintain and have. And I'll just keep working with the community and other members of the board to find solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathaniel Kilgore, your road funding plans.
Thank you. It says in the fiscal year of 2020, funding for our road was $12 million short. And maybe the question is misleading, but if I'm reading it right, then Carson City needs $15 million to spend on roads in the fiscal year of 2020. The conditions of our roads is what some are calling a serious problem, and some spots are worse than others. I recently heard one of our supervising candidates speaking about this, and I don't want to steal his words, but I feel he's right when he said, the condition of our roads isn't as bad as some are saying. He specifically compared the condition of our roads to that of many others, and it was quite better. Although I don't know how far $15 million goes fixing roads, I hope it includes the many intersections that are missing stop signs, because to me that seems more likely to get someone hurt or worse. We need a better strategy for planning what areas require the most attention and systematically doing necessary improvements while we balance the cost with a more efficient approach as the funds become available. We are currently waiting on the results from the research being done on this topic, and hopefully that results in a better strategy we're not currently seeing. The roads are no exception for another look. Everything's stretched pretty thin right now, so maybe the original proposal is just too high in the first place. And we may need to reconsider what the real scope of the problem is before we add additional funding. Thank you.
Next question. Our tentative budget for Carson City for 2021 is approximately $160 million. That's down a little bit. The current budget is $176 million. And we anticipate that there may be a significant loss of revenue because of the shutdown due to the COVID-19 crisis. So, how do you propose cutting the city budget? And Aaron Sims, we're back to you.
Thank you, Brent. As we know, COVID-19 has put a significant amount of pressure on an already tight budget for our community. As reported by the Nevada Appeal, and as Brent had just said, the Board of Supervisors had decreased the 2021 budget by about $16 million from what the 2020 budget had said. Carson City does have a bond rating, meaning that we have the capacity to utilize leverage when it comes to paying for a variety of different programs, including needed infrastructure. This budget, the current budget, whether I agree with it or not, is still an active budget that a number of departments had contributed to. But the uncertainty of this virus has made it possible to potentially cut more. The truth of the matter is, I don't want to cut the budget at all, even within the confines of the current crisis or looking forward to the potential economic recession. I don't believe that that is the strongest option available to the people of Carson City. I would actually want to increase our budget, making sure that folks can continue to work and continue to serve our community. The only way for us to avoid an economic catastrophe is to invest in our community, especially in our middle class, as vulnerable populations, most who are at risk, are facing hardship from these stay-at-home measures. In a town full of government employees, we would hardly be doing our job or doing the job that the citizens who had elected us to do by service or by doing any service to the community by making all sorts of different cuts. If I've ever had to make a hard choice between two programs that Carson City residents desperately need, I would pick both. All of our programs that have led us to trend in economic growth, and they are also what has given us the flexibility to utilize bonds within Carson City. Thank you.
Thank you. Todd Jennings, how would you cut the budget?
Thank you, sir. So budget cuts, especially after just addressing the shortfall in road maintenance funds, will most certainly be necessary. And I hate to use the phrase essential staff or services, but unfortunately we're going to have to. Public safety is going to be the #1 priority. Without a doubt, we have to make sure that the community is safe, the people feel safe, they are safe. After that, everything would be on the table. As the mayor, I would meet with the department managers and send them out to form their teams to determine the best way to address those budget shortfalls, determine what's essential, what's not, and then make those cuts where we can without putting people at risk, without putting people in danger. I think it's important to recognize that when we come out of this pandemic, I think there's most certainly going to be a shortfall. So we have to just, again, keep in mind the importance of keeping everyone safe as much as we can. I'd love to be able to say, yes, we're going to help bail out businesses and those kind of things. I don't know that that would be an option. I think right now we would need to wait and see exactly what it's going to look like. And then the team that would be the city or the managers of the city departments and those people putting together everyone in a team mindset of, we managed to get through this together. Together we can solve some of these problems. It's going to take some time. This pandemic is going to wreak havoc, but I think we can together as a community solve these problems. Recognizing that public safety is going to be first and foremost, the most important thing that we take care of is ensuring that our community is safe, the people are safe. And from there, we just try and build. When things went south 10 years ago, 12 years ago, it took time for that recovery to happen. The recovery from this is going to take time, and it's going to be a little bit painful, but we will manage it together. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Lori Bagwell, budget cuts?
So Brett, thank you. I was pleased to lead the board in changing its financial policy several years ago. We changed our savings account policy from having about a 3-week savings account to a 2-month savings account. And I'm happy to say that that was a good decision that we made. Don't spend every penny, because I think it's what's going to carry the day and get us through so that we don't have to start cutting those essential services. We've already delayed $6 million worth of capital projects. We stopped any construction project that hadn't gone to bid yet. We cut all of those or delayed them. We froze all the vacant positions. If that's not enough to get through this, then our next step will be to separate all of the expenditures in our budget into two different categories, those that are mandatory versus those that are discretionary. Mandatory items are things like utilities and chemicals to treat your water, things that we absolutely must do, that it's not a choice. And then you start with holding public hearings to receive community input on what the most important priorities are. We have to do this together. Not any one person knows the answer. And we're going to just have to very, very tough decisions to have to make. But ultimately, we eliminate the expenditures that were deemed less important until you reach the goal of the needed cut. I met this challenge in 2008 while working for the Department of Corrections as the deputy director. We had to cut 20%. These will be very tough decisions, but with my background and experience, I am prepared to lead our community through these very tough discussions. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you. Nathaniel Kilgore, how would you cut the budget?
Proposals for cuts to the budget are complex, but breaking it down for a closer look will leaves us with many tasks. Perhaps start with reconsidering any questionable future contracts, which it sounds like we already have. Pushing back some startups on unnecessary projects would buy us some time, but that's just a Band-Aid. It seems that those measures are being taken as well. Successful practice many cities have implemented could have us assessing our offices and departments that share similar responsibilities. And by merging some of these, others could simply be eliminated. This is not as tricky as it sounds, when some cities have already implemented this measure for very successful budget cuts in the past. Due to the pandemic, though, we are just now learning what essential workers or businesses are. So it'll be more apparent what we can cut now than it ever will be. So you got to find some good in every bad. We could also introduce legislation to cap overtime expenditures for city workers. If necessary, we institute temporary furlough days to help make up for the shortfall. Our city employees, it employs more than 5,000 people. And after most recent pay increases, some annual salaries are approaching the $200,000 mark, with no aspects of checks and balances. I fear that the job tasks are being underperformed. Possibly it's something that needs to be evaluated. Some cuts could probably be made there with evaluations to those higher paid positions. I would, however, not support proposals to cut public safety or family supportive services or education. Thank you.
Question builds on the assumption that we are headed into a recession during your term. Aaron Sims, what are your priorities?
For many of the people in Carson City currently, life is on pause, but the bills are not. It was recently noted by the Brookings Institute that both Reno and Las Vegas are the most vulnerable to a recession due to this virus because of a lack of a diversified economy. As I mentioned in my last answer, what we need to do is we need to preserve the diversity of economies here in Carson City, as well as all the different programs that we have available here in Carson City. This should be our first priority, because this will prevent a recession in the first place. Although a lot of folks are going to be taking a hit, a lot of businesses have already taken a hit. One of the things that our local government can do is investing as much as they can within the confines of our budget back into the community. Investment into the community, infrastructure, local businesses, bringing in new businesses are ways that we can help not just put Carson City through safely a possible recession, but also prevent a recession to begin with. I think there's a lot of new opportunities that Carson City has going forward, even under a recession. And my goal as the mayor would be to, first and foremost, prevent one from happening. But number two, provide enough of a safety network established and put in place to ensure that too many people, that our citizens are not going to fall apart on top of it. Thank you, Brent.
Thank you. Todd B. Jennings, your city priorities.
So I think the first priority, of course, is going to be the public safety. We have to ensure that all those mechanisms remain in place to take care of the public, to take care of the public interests, to ensure that our water supplies remain viable, make sure everything continues to work to ensure that people in Carson City have the means to do what they have to bounce out of the recession, to get back to work, to start turning things around. So I think, quite frankly, that public safety idea, the idea that before things can turn around, people have to be able to be safe. And I think our fire, our police, all of the different things that go into our day-to-day living would have to be in place, remain in place. Teams would have to be put together to ensure that I think there is going to be a recession. I don't think there's much doubt of that. The people being out of work, it's hurting people. And so I think we need to have teams in place to set up systems to manage those things, to help people find their way, to make it as painless as possible, and to hopefully get a little bit of growth going so we can bounce out of the recession and become the Carson City that we all love. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Bagwell, assuming we're heading into a recession, what are the priorities?
Thank you, Brent. I would approach a recession much as we did in 2008. In that instance, we had to trim all the budgets as needed in order to maintain a balanced budget. In Nevada, we're all required to have a balanced budget. The city is required to keep operating cash of 5%. I would really push that up to I really think you have to have 8 weeks, because that's the only way you have a cushion to operate. You have to have cash. I think that even what Todd just said was right. Public safety and clean water, that's what you have to start with. They have to be your priorities. Then you look at all the other services that the city provides, and you have to set them up and say, what can we keep and what can't we? It's not a choice. We must have a balanced budget. You keep all those that have dedicated funding sources. So if they get grant money from the state, from the federal government, if they have foundation grants or anything of that nature, you keep those. And that hopefully with our savings policy, we can get through, but again, it won't last long. I agree, we're going to have a recession. The other thing you have to look at is, what can we do in the city to change any regulations or policies that will help businesses thrive? Because until the businesses reopen and thrive, the city will not. I don't know what those answers are, but I agree we put together a task force and really work on that to say, what can we do? So I'll meet with the business leaders and say, what is it? What do we need to do to help? We're all going to just have to work together to solve these issues and establish the city's highest priorities. Unfortunately, everything doesn't make the cut. And then we work hard. And what's really sad is over this last recession, it took us 10 years to recover. I thought we were just really getting out of that the last 2 years, but unfortunately, I think we're on our way back. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathaniel Kilgore, priorities.
Thanks again. The city's priority should always be to the security of its population. Therefore, we may need to extend or even implement new public programs that ensure families have food or proper shelter. And for those able to work, job placement will be a necessity for relieving the other bloated numbers of the unemployment. So bolstering job placement agencies would work both ways on this. Cities are filing for federal support, and there's no reason we shouldn't do the same. All options are on the table when it comes down to ensuring the quickest possible recovery in the event of any recession. A new budget is clearly a definite priority for recovery. Thank you.
We head into closing comments. We will remind you that candidate Jim Shirk was not here tonight due to a family emergency. We will record his answers and have them available later online. Now, all the candidates who are present get 2 minutes for a closing remark. And we start with Aaron Sims.
Ultimately, this election comes down to vision for Carson City. It's important that the mayor of Carson City has the proper vision carrying us forward. And I believe that I am that choice. I do want to thank, of course, once again, Brent and Cassandra for both moderating and hosting this debate. I do want to thank my fellow candidates for joining me on this debate. This has been an interesting experience, to say the least. And I do believe that regardless of who the people of Carson City vote for, we are making an active effort to show that we together are coming together to serve the best interests of the people of Carson City. And that's at the heart of my campaign, service to the people. And I just want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to share with you some of my views. If you could visit www.simsforcarson.com to get a little bit more familiar with who I am as a candidate and what my platform is, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Todd B. Jennings. Todd may be muted.
Things got bumped. Sorry for that. So thank you. I'm sure I joined the other candidates when I wished Jim Shirk well with his family situation, and we wish him all the best. So even while I traveled the world, Carson City was home. I kept my residency and my Nevada driver's license. It was always fascinating when I would come home on leave to learn there were new streets, new subdivisions, and a whole lot of new people. I believe the population when I left was a little over 10,000. Unfettered growth is something I believe needs to be addressed, but then again, I digress. This is closing comments. When elected your mayor, I look forward to building the teams necessary to put systems in place for making the improvements that will benefit everyone in Carson City. Note that I said everyone. Our mayor's position is nonpartisan. The mayor serves for the good of everyone in Carson City. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and good luck to everyone.
Thank you. Lori Bagwell.
Thank you. I want to thank the Nevada Appeal and the Nevada Grassroots Broadcasting Network, and especially the viewing audience for your interest in this candidate forum, and all of the other candidates for participating this evening. Right now, your Board of Supervisors and Mayor are preparing for the ultimate recovery of Carson City, and I am ready right now to continue that task. I have the education and experience that make me the most qualified candidate to be your next mayor. I have a proven track record in managing large budgets, working through downturns, and so I am ready to take this task on. It won't be easy, nor will it be enjoyable, but it will be all of us working together through this hardship. I would appreciate your support for the present mayor and the board as they grapple with this issue. And I want you to be assured that I will give my utmost attention to bring this city through this crisis with our head above water. I also want to just take one moment to give a shout out to the women from 100 years ago that fought so hard to get women the right to vote. I wouldn't even be here tonight without their foresight. I would appreciate your support and your vote in this election. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Nathaniel D. Kilgore.
Thank you. Now's the part where I ask for your vote, especially if you find that you agree with these. The following are my morals, which I swear to stand by. They are standards I know cannot be wavered in any way if I am to receive the honor of the public support in my running for mayor. They go like this. I believe in transparency, not distraction. I believe in representing the people, not ruling. I believe in democracy and not bureaucracy. I believe in acceptance, not discrimination, and I believe in potential, not power. Stand with me, and together we can strive for a better future, and we will strive for a better Carson City. Again, I'd like to say thanks for the opportunity to speak. I meant every word of it. If you find yourselves in agreement with these topics and see passion for improving our city, I'd appreciate your support with a simple vote. If you'd like to learn more about me and my platform, you can visit my website at nathanielkilgore2020.com. Thank you so much.
We would like to express our appreciation to the candidates and our viewers for bearing with us through a rather unusual socially distanced debate this evening. And that's it for the candidates and for me, your moderator, Brent Boynton. And now back to your host, Cassandra Butterfield.
Thank you, Brent. Our thanks to the candidates who has given their time this evening. We want to thank the Nevada Appeal for making this possible. And we also thank Brent for his journalistic and broadcast expertise and his on-air presence this evening. And thanks to you, our viewers, not only for watching NGBN Carson City TV, but also for caring enough about your community to do the work to make informed decisions. You can get more information in the Nevada Appeal Voter Guide on the Nevada Appeal website. Don't forget to vote in the June 9th primary election. I'm Cassandra Butterfield. Good night.